Okay, everything looks like it's logged in right on time, and I'm presuming again the sound is adequate as it has been for a good few weeks now. Yeah, I'm afraid I'm feeling a little under the weather again this week, so please forgive me if it's a bit pedestrian as we go through it. Even we can just read the verses of the Gita, even if it's a bit slow and not very animated. Okay, we're on chapter 18, of course, the last chapter of the Bhagavadgītā, and this really the first half of this 18th chapter is given over to a discussion of the nature of action in this world, also the renunciation of the action beginning really from Arjun's question in the opening verse about different types of renunciation. Should action be renounced by one who is pursuing the goal of transcendence, to break free of this world? Does that mean that we abandon any activity within this world? And Krishna then, first of all, he said, no, action should be performed. We shouldn't give up, because renunciation isn't a physical thing. It's about your state of mind, your state of consciousness, and you can be renounced while performing all sorts of actions. It's desire, attachment that you've got to free yourself from. That's real renunciation. And then he's been defining action, looking at the impetuses for action, the causal factors that bring about the result of action. And now in these verses that we're looking at now, there's three topics really, each of which is considered in relation to the three gunas, sattva, rajas and tamas. Last time we looked at the first of these, which was gyan, which is knowledge, in the sense that all action is based on the primary impetus for that action, which is knowledge, a certain understanding, a certain vision of the world, which impels us to act in a certain way. Obviously, before we physically act, our minds are engaged, and Krishna was saying that that knowledge which perceives in terms of spiritual realization, seeing other living beings as spiritual entities. In other words, understanding the existence of the Atman, that gives unity across the variety of living beings in this world. That, he said, was action related to sattva gun. Knowledge related to sattva gun. Knowledge related to rajas is the normal knowledge that we use, whereby we see variety and we differentiate, and that knowledge of good and bad, desirable and undesirable, impels us to act in a certain way, our normal, really conventional mode of action, but it's based on a certain type of knowledge which is rooted in this world rather than the higher knowledge of spiritual identity. And then finally Krishna says knowledge which focuses simply on one factor and regards it as all embracing, that everything is in this one, and it's vartikam. It's not based on any real understanding of the truth. It's ahoitakam. It's not really based on any reasoning. That's tamasic action, which of course impels individuals to act in that way. And now in verse 23, Krishna applies that threefold mode of analysis to the action itself, to the karma. Okay, so the verse 23 is niyatam sangarahitam aragadveshata hakritam apalapripsuna karma yaktat satvikamuchyate. That, it says at the end there, that action which is designated is said to be sattvic action. What's it like? And the verse itself consists of a series of factors which show that mode of action is to be designated as sattvika, conducted under the influence of the highest of the qualities which pervade everything in this world, the sattva guna, the guna of purity, light, wisdom and joy. That's the quality. So what does he say about that? First, what sort of action is related to sattva? Well, it's niyatam. It's the action which is properly ordained. That, in other words, it's our responsibilities, our duties, the proper action that we have to do. It can be seen in terms of our responsibilities to our family, to our extended and nuclear family, to our community, to our society. We have responsibilities. We live in a certain location socially, familiarly, and just as we derive benefits from that, so we have responsibility. So the first quality of the sattvic action is that it's niyatam, it's a fulfillment of those obligations and responsibility. Secondly, and again we're seeing again how intimately connected the sattva guna is in relation to karma with the spiritual path of karma yoga. I think I've made this point so many times, that what it reveals to us is sattva guna isn't just one of the causes of bondage to this world. It's got a dual identity. It also is an essential part of the path to spiritual awakening, because, as Krishna says here, niyatam, yes, it's obligatory duties, but also sattvic karma is sangarahitam. It's performed without any attachment. In other words, we're not attached to the things that we're doing. We're not looking for some form of pleasure, enjoyment, or reward from it. We're doing it, as Krishna said earlier, kartavyam, just because it should be done, without any selfish form of attachment. Therefore, Krishna says that the sattvic action is niyatam. Yes, it's fulfilling our responsibility, but it's also sangarahitam. It's free of that selfish attachment, which so often is the impulse towards taking action. I do action because I perform an action because I'm going to gain from it. I'll get some money for it. I'll get some pleasure for it, some delight or something like that. Krishna is saying that the highest form of action is in fact sangarahitam, devoid of any such selfish motivation. So niyatam sangarahitam araga dveshata hakritam. Kritam, it means it's performed. Raga advesha. Raga is passion, intense desire, longing. Dvesha is the opposite, hatred, anger, enmity. And so again, the sattvic action is free of any passionate desire, as it was before, free of attachment, free of desire, araga, and it's free of any hatred, free of any sense of animosity. You can see again, we're going right back to chapter 2. Those who were listening back then, I don't think many were. I think it was just the Wellingborough group who were listening, but I'm sure all those in Wellingborough will recall the word that Krishna used, prasad, that serenity of mind. And again, it's that same idea that we're encountering here, araga dvesha, free of, it's performed free of passionate longing for something, free of any sort of animosity, hatred, enmity or dislike, but rather in a mood of prasad, aloof serenity, just doing it because it has to be done. You can see how readily this is related to the ideal of transcendence of the world, because this is essentially sattva guna, sattvic action, sattvic karma is karma yoga. Araga dveshata hakritam, apala pripsuna karma. This karma, this action is also apala pripsuna. It's not, it's again, it's a negative. Pala pripsuna is means with a desire, seeking out pala, fruit. And of course it doesn't mean literally fruit, it's not just saying without desire for apples or bananas. Fruit in the perhaps metaphorical sense of being the desirable result. I do this action because I want something. Again, it's very much in line with the earlier idea of karma yoga, apala prepsuna, not motivated by any desire for selfish gain. Apala prepsuna karma yatat satvika muchyate. When karma is like that, then it is said uchyate to be sattvic, of the nature of sattvika. So Raga Dvesha Tahakritam. No, it's what does it start with? Apala Prepsuna Karma Yatat Satvika Muchyate. I can't think now. Anyway, never mind. We'll go on to the next verse. Apala Prepsuna Karma Yatat Satvika Muchyate. Satvika Muchyate. Can't remember the next verse now. Apala prepsuna karma yatatsa. Oh, I can. Yattu kamepsuna karma. The very opposite. This yattu kamepsuna karma. Sa ahankarena vapunaha kriyate bahulayasam tadrajasamudarhitam. So the last phrase is tadrajasamudarhitam. This is spoken of as rajasa. This karma, okay, and what is it? Yattu, but that which is kamepsuna karma, which is karma, which is action, which is karma ipsuna, with a desire for karma, that action which is performed seeking pleasure. In other words, it's materialistic action, even if it's ritual action. Even the Vedic ritual could fall under this action. Ritual is performed for wealth, prosperity, power, progeny in this world. That is kamepsuna karma. That is ritual action, religious action, you might say, performed with a desire based on karma, not karma, karma. Like in Kama Sutras, something desirable, pleasure. And you can see, we know, we learn of many people, like Ravan is the obvious example, who performed ritual religious action with priests acting on his behalf. But he performed the ritual because he wanted some result, some reward from it. It was essentially selfish action. Kamepsuna karma. Okay, that's the first. This is all the karma that's related to rajas. Yattu kamepsuna karma, or sa ahankarena vapunaha. Sa ahankarena vapunaha. That which is performed, or else that which is performed ahankarena, with ahankara. Ahankara means, in this context, pride, egotism, if you like. Yes, we perform action because we want to be admired. Even sometimes philanthropic action may be motivated in that way. I'm giving my coins out to a poor man, or my notes or something like that, but I'm looking around. Is everybody aware how generous I am? Is everybody admiring me, etc.? Sa ahankarena vapuna, and it's such an easy trap to fall into, isn't it? And that's why I think we're always advised that if you do have any pious activity, do them in secret, and that way you'll be keep yourself, and don't mention it either. Don't mention it. Don't drop any hints that you're giving a lot away, because then it becomes tainted a little bit with ahankara. We all want to be put up on a pedestal and admired and thought highly of, but again, this is a worldly preoccupation, and what Krishna's teaching here really is very much related, as I've said, to something spiritual. So yattu kamepsuna karma sahunkarena vapunaha, kriyate bahulayasam, or that which is, kriyate means it is performed, the karma is performed, bahulayasam, with great endeavor, with passion, rushing around, working 12, 16 hours a day to fulfill your desires, filled with passionate energy. I must do this, drink more coffee, stay awake, pull an all-nighter. That sort of thing is obviously related to rajas. So Yet to kamepsuna karma, that which is based on desire for karma. Sahunkarena vapunaha, or again is based on pride, wanting to be admired, wanting to be elevated, wanting to be regarded as the top person in some way. Kriyate bahulayasam, which is performed with great energy, passionate endeavor. Tadrajasam udarhitam, that is understood as rajas karma, passionate action. Sahankarena vapunaha kriyate bahulayasam tadrajasam udarhitam. Next verse, 25. Anubandam, shoyam, himsam, anapreksha, chapaurusham. Now, the significant word here is anapreksha. Anapreksha, yes. Apreksha means with understanding, recognizing, consideration, really. Anapreksha means without consideration. Anapreksha paurusham mohara rabiti karma yattat tama samuchate. So yattat tama samuchate. This is the karma that's based on tamas. Anapreksha. Anapreksha means without regard for, without thinking or seeing certain things. And so Krishna then gives 4 things that the tamas action is done without consideration of. First of all, anubandam, without considering the consequences, without thinking, if I do this action, it will have this effect. I must be cautious in my action. I must consider any potential harm or damage it could do. I must consider the consequences, the outcome. But the tamas karma is anapreksha anubandam. It's without considering any of the consequences. Also, kshoyam, without considering kshoya. Kshoya is damage, the negative consequences of the action. I think that's a similar sort of idea there. Kshoya means the harm, the damage that you can perform by your actions. Again, tamas action doesn't think about this at all, not bother. It's just that thing, I've seen something I want and I'll get it, never stopping to think that this might be problematic, or speaking some words because you like to gossip or something and you don't care what the consequences of your foolish speech might be. So anapreksha kshoyam, and then himsa. We know the word ahimsa means non-violence or not harming. And again, not considering the damage, the harm, the suffering that it can cause to people, the action. It's not necessarily viciously motivated. It's just uncaring, not being bothered to think about things. This is the nature of tamas. So those, and then the other thing is paurusham, which is a very obvious one. Paurusham means one's ability to perform the action. So one starts taking on an action that one just hasn't got the capacity to perform at all. It's just stupid. The idea, oh yeah, I'll do that. I'll climb up a mountain or something, just not thinking, can I do that? It's again, you can see the characteristic of tamas is darkness, stupidity. So Krishna says, anubandam, shoyam, himsam, anapreksha, cha paurusham chita, without thinking or recognizing the consequences, the damage, the harm, the pain, and also one's ability to perform that action. And mohat arabhyate karma, and the endeavor is undertaken on the basis of moha, stupidity, illusion, delusion, not understanding anything about anything. It's just a stupid thing to do, isn't it? That's what teachers always say to the pupils. That was a really stupid thing to do. And you think, oh, yes, it was. Many times in one's life, perhaps you've thought, Krishna says, mohata rabhyate karma, that karma which is undertaken mohat because of just stupid, not thinking about things properly, being just, oh yeah, I'll do that, not being alert, focused on doing things properly, thinking about the consequences. If I do that properly, this will come, etc. And therefore, when you act in that negligent manner, so often You can cause harm, kshoya, you can cause pain and suffering, himsa. Not thinking about that. What should we say? Like talking on your phone when you're driving a car, or drinking alcohol. I don't care, I just get in my car, drive. You don't think this could be terrible. I could cause so much negative situations for myself and for others, and I'm not thinking whether I'm capable of driving. Sure, I'm not addressing any people, but that's the idea. That's what tamasic karma is. Tamasic action is based on that stupidity, lack of foresight, lack of understanding. Mohata rabhyate karma yaktat tamasam uchyate. That's the verse, isn't it? Anubandham, shoyam, himsam, and apreksha. Not thinking about those. Paurusham as well, not thinking about. Mohara rabhyate karma, that action which is undertaken due to stupidity and illusion. Yatat tamasam uchyate. Okay, so in that way Krishna has again defined karma, defined action under the three categories of the gunas. Now he comes on to talk about the kartri, or karta, if you put it when it's the subject of the sentence. The three types of performer of action. Okay, and again, sattva, rajas and tamas. What's the person who is performing action like under the, when influenced, predominated by sattva? Should say, mukta sango, anahamvadi, dhrityutsaha samanvitaha, siddhya siddhyo nirvikari, karta sattvika uchyate. Okay, that's the line again. Karta sattvika uchyate. Uchyate. He is said to be karta sattvika, the doer of action, the karta who is sattvik. Okay, and what are his qualities, or her qualities, we should say, shouldn't we? Probably more likely her qualities. First of all, mukta sangha. Mukta, we know, is liberated, free from. It's like mukti, liberation. Mukta sangha, free from attachment. That's the again, serenity, prasad. Doing it, kartavyam. This should be done, but no attachment, no thinking of I'll get some great gain from this, no thinking people will admire me for my wonderful endeavors. Mukta sangha. And anahamvadi. This is an interesting phrase, I think, because I mean the word vada is often used in Indian thought, Indian philosophy, to denote a particular doctrine that one speaks on behalf of, vada, or one adheres to. So we have like Satyavadins, they say the world is absolutely real. Then the Vivartavadins, they say the world is illusion. Satkaryavad, they say that the effect is within the cause already. Anatmavad is the Buddhist view that there is no Atma. So the word vada means speaking up, literally, or adhering to a particular perspective. And what Krishna gives us here is the idea of an ahamvad. Aham means I. Ahamvadin, a person who is, in other words, not so much bothered about philosophical ideas, but I, me. This is all about me. I was talking to my son about this as well. He's talking about in politics, why do people take up certain political positions, or etc. And it may seem that it's all about being ideological, but if you think very deeply, very often it's ahamvadin. This is about my identity and me establishing my identity as a particular person. And that is then the deep underlying motivation, ahamvadin. It's look at me, look at me, look how radical I am, look at the position I take, look at my dramatic beliefs that I have. It's me, is everyone watching me thinking like that? So Krishna says here that the sattvic karta, the doer of action who is sattvic, is anahamvadi, has no such pretensions, doing the action simply because it should be done without attachment, it's the opposite of ahankarena that he talked about with regard to action as well. Anahambadi. Mukta sango nahambadi driti utsaha samanvitaha. Samanvitaha means endowed with, possessing. What does the sattvic actor do? Possess. Driti. And utsaha, driti is resolution, determination. Sometimes it's hard to follow the right course of action. Sometimes you get criticized. Sometimes you feel like you're not getting anywhere and feel like, it's too difficult. I'll have to give this up. I know it's the right thing, but it's troublesome. It's hard. It's discouraging. Driti samamvitaha. The sattvic karta is endowed with resolute determination. Utsaha means fortitude, perhaps, or perhaps better still, enthusiasm. Does it enthusiastically, in contrast, as we'll hear, to the tamas karta. Do it enthusiastically. You know it's the right thing to do. This is different from raga. This is not passion, but at the same time, you do it resolutely, enthusiastically, determined to get it right, not giving up after a few minutes when it gets a bit difficult, seeing it through to the end because it is kartavya, because it is the right thing to do. Driti utsaha samambitaha. And finally, in the next line, siddhya siddhyo nirvikari. Vikarin means transformation, changed. Nirvikari means one who is not changed. And what are they not changed by? Siddhya siddhyo, by success or failure. And in other words, it's about that idea of prasad, serenity of mind. Whenever we make endeavors, sometimes we'll be successful, sometimes less successful. No failure, there's just degrees of success if we are performing proper action. Yes, siddhya siddhyo nirvikari, not changed, not moved, whether it's successful or unsuccessful. Serene of mind, looking on. I've tried to the best of my capacity with driti, with resolve, resolution, with utsaha, with enthusiasm and commitment, but ultimately sometimes it will be more successful than others. Therefore, siddhya siddhyo nirvikari. I'm not going to be plunged into despair if it doesn't go exactly as I planned, and I'm not going to be dancing from the rooftops when things go well. Siddhya siddhyo nirvikari, because it's that. Again, we can see what Krishna is talking about in Sattva Gun. It's really opening the door of transcendence, the Sattva Gunas, and therefore, this is said, siddhya siddhya nirvikari, transcending, entering the realm of prasad, of serenity of mind. So, mukta sango, Mukta sango anahambadi dhrityotsaha samambitaha siddhya siddhyo nirvikari karta sattvika uchyate. Of course, as you'll immediately recognize the pattern of this section of the discourse, we go on to the rajas karta, the performer of action under the control of rajas, rajaguna. And what's the first thing we hear about? Well, let's go through the verse then. Ragi karma pala prepsur lubdo himsatmako shuchi harsha shokambitaha karta rajasaha parikirtitaha. So the last phrase is karta rajasa parikirtitaha. Parikirtitaha. Kirtan, it means praise normally, but it means he is known or he is renowned as the rajas karta, the doer of action under the influence of rajas. So what are the qualities of such a karta, such a performer of action? Ragi, yes, raga is passionate longing, motivated by extreme intense desires. Karma pala prepsur. Prepsur is hankering, desiring. What's this person hankering or desiring? Karma pala, the rewards of action. Again, it's the fruit of action, really. He's doing his action because he wants something, he hopes to gain from it, etc. So, ragi, passion, karma pala pripsu. He wants to get a reward for his action, looking for the result, get rich, something like that. Karma pala pripsu. Lubda. Yes, lubda is greed, really wanting more and more. It becomes an obsession, an addiction, I think, of the modern world. The biggest addiction is to wealth, isn't it? Even sometimes just completely amazes me. People who have so much wealth, they still want more and more and more and more. Lubda, just greedy. Enough is enough. Be satisfied, be content. Lubda, himsatmako. Ashuchi, himsatmaka. It's interesting that Krishna expands himsa and he says himsa atmaka, which atmaka means their whole personality, state of mind, consciousness is pervaded by himsa. And again, we know the word ahimsa, not harming. But the mind of such actors, their whole personality, their identity, if you like, is predominated by harmfulness to others. And I think that again goes with lubda, because lubda is greed. And there's wealth enough for everybody in the world. But because of greed, we want 3,000 people's shares and those other 3,000 will have nothing. They'll starve. They'll live in poverty, deprived of everything. Therefore, our greed is himsatmaka. It causes harm to others. You look at you study the economics, the global economy, the wealth of our countries. It's largely fueled by the poverty of other countries. It is a global economy. So our greed for more and more stuff, much more, is himsatmaka, because we're depriving others of just an even share of it. Or if we look, say, as Karl Marx in the Communist Manifesto writes in his chapter Bourgeois and Proletarian, he explains that the bourgeoisie, they set up businesses and their whole aim is to keep wages as low as possible, because the lower wages are, then the greater the profits. Lubdo himsatmaka, Krishna says. So then if you do harm to the proletariat, then the bourgeoisie is aggrandized. I'm not preaching Marxism here, but yeah, I often think, I've read the Communist Manifesto. It's a radical text, but it's not as radical as the Bhagavadgītā. Bhagavadgītā is super radical. It's beyond the Communist Manifesto, but it's a similar idea here, that our greed causes the oppression and suffering of others. At an obvious level, we've got businesses, clothing manufacturers, isn't it, who have factories out in poorer countries where they pay very, very low wages so they can have vast profits. They're already super rich, these people who own these businesses, but they keep wages in the poorer countries as low as possible, and we enjoy it as well because we can get cheap clothes. Like my jacket cost, I don't know, £30-40, but it's only that low price, probably because someone somewhere is earning a pittance to make it out in other country. So lubdo himsatmako shuchi. So our greed is inherently, axiomatically linked to causing suffering to others, and that can apply to animals as well, isn't it? The abuse of animals in farming and things like that. It's our greed. We want it, and we'll make the biggest profit by keeping animals locked up in small pens and things like that. Lubdo himsatmako ashuchi, and it's impure, obviously, because the shuchi consciousness, the pure consciousness, is all about giving, sharing, helping, compassion, kindness. What can I do for you? The Rajas gives us ashuchi mind, which is what can I get from you? Not what can I do to help you, but what can I exploit you for? What can I do to enhance my my own wealth based on my sense of greed? Now, revolutionary text, the Bhagavadgītā. Sometimes it's, I think, uncompromising, isn't it? Krishna, he doesn't pull any punches in pointing the finger at us, I suppose you'd say. Lubdo himsatmako shuchi, harsha shokam vitaha karta. This karta is harsha, shoka, and vitaha. He's vitaha, filled, endowed, imbued with harsha and shoka, rejoicing. Shoka, lamenting, goes up and down. It's the very opposite of the prasad of the sattvic-minded person. The sattvic actor is serene and on an even level, looking, doing it because it should be done, because it is right and it is proper. But the rajasic doer, who is filled with insatiable, greedy desires, sometimes they're fulfilled, harsha, sometimes he doesn't get what he wants, shoka. Therefore, Krishna says, harsha shokam vitaha karta rajasaha parikirtitaha. Such a person is renowned, known as rajas. This is quite, makes you think about yourself, doesn't it? I hope everybody will be switching off, however, I'm not listening to this. This is a bit too extreme. Anyway, harsha shokam vitaha karta rajasaha parikirtitaha. And now we come on, yes, to the tamasic actor, and Krishna gives a whole stream of nouns here that define the actor under the influence of tamas, which is ayuktaha, prakritaha, stubdaha, shato naiskritiko vishadi, dirghasutricha, karta tamasa uchyate. This karta is uchyate, said to be tamasa. So what is he like? Ayuktaha, incompetent. Reminds me of our political leaders, some definitely ayukta. Ayuktaha, incompetent, not properly doing things properly, negligent, not getting it done properly. The opposite of driti and utsaha, with resolution and enthusiasm, proper doing. Ayuktaha, can't be bothered. Prakritaha, vulgar, common. Foul-mouthed, you know, that sort of low, degraded. Ayuktaha, prakritaha, stubdaha, stubborn, resistant, not listening to any good advice. Read Bhagavadgītā when it says, load of rubbish, not listening to that. I know what's right. Stubdaha, what is that? Ayuktaha, prakritaha, stubdaha, shata is deceitful, cheating. Have you done that? Yes, I've done it. I've done it properly. You did it properly. Yes, of course I've done it properly. Not really. Which is lazy. Nice critical. And that means nice critical or naicritica in some manuscripts means harmful, doing things that cause distress to others. Alasaha is lazy. There, it's a catalogue of bad qualities, isn't it? Ayuktaha, not prakritaha, vulgar, low. Stubdaha, stubborn, resistant to good advice or any sort of guidance. Shato, deceitful, nice critical, harmful, vicious even, you might say. Alasaha, lazy, indolent. Lasaha. Vishadi, dirghasutricha. Vishadi means depressed, unenthusiastic. It's sometimes I'm sure all parents encounter this with their children, don't you? You have to do some tidying up of here. This is dirty, and you vishading, unenthusiastic. Dirghasutri means procrastinating, putting it off for a long time, dragging it out. Again, the very opposite of the enlightened enthusiasm of the sattvic doer. So it's different from the passionate rajasa performer of action who is full of energy because the desires are burning within them, ragi, motivating themselves to rush here and there, bahula yasa, filled with passionate desire, staying up hours doing the work. This person is lazy, indolent, uncaring, inefficient, etc., deceitful, stubborn, etc. Karta tamasa uchyate. And that's then the end of Krishna's threefold analyses in these categories of the knowledge that motivates a person, of the action itself that is performed, and of the performer of the action, the karta. And we see the pattern that is emerging. But Krishna's not finished there. He takes it on further, and I'll just introduce the next topic. It's again 2 more categories Krishna introduces now, one of which is buddhi and the other is driti, which we've already mentioned today. Buddher bedam dritesh chaiva gunatas trivida hashrinu prochamana mashishena. Pritak vena dhananjaya. Yes, Buddher bedam dritesh chaiva gunatas trivida hashrinu. Shrinu, Krishna says to Arjuna. Now listen, hear this, he says. Buddher bedam, the division of buddhi, the different types of buddhi, dritesh chaiva, and of driti. Buddher bedam dritesh chaiva gunatas trivida hashrinu, which is based on the threefold analysis, trividaha, gunatas, in relation to the gunas, gunatas trivida hashrinu, prochamana mashashena, which will now be enunciated, praucha, asheshena, completely. He's going to do all 3, tell it completely. Yatavat, as it is properly, isn't that right? Prochamana mashashena, pritakt vena, and the distinctions between them. So Krishna here in this verse, which I think we'll finish with today. I don't want to launch into buddhi and driti, but buddhi is it means the intellect, it means the intelligence, it means the reasoning faculty of the mind. It also means our understanding of the world around us, the way we comprehend, higher minded or lower minded, our vision of the world. That is our buddhi, and our driti is the resolution, the determination that we can employ in making different kinds of endeavors. Krishna's already mentioned that the sattvic actor is endowed with driti, but driti itself is not always a desirable factor, a desirable quality. Resolution, when it's employed in the wrong direction, can be a negative attribute. So Krishna again wants to take the point a little further and analyze the way, the form of understanding that we have, and also the application of our resolution and determination. Very interesting the way he defines that, and I think the way these verses, again, particularly relevant for the world around us as we look around. But I'll stop there. I'm running out of energy a little bit, so we'll pause. Sorry if it was a bit